Okay, so I would like to start picking up some report back from the plenary. So what amazed me is what I heard from the plenary is actually flowing into what we've been designing for the afternoon session. I remember I hear some one group report that it's a slow process, and that needs disposition. We want to look to see with the Trinity's eyes. So that brings me to think about this afternoon session before the disposition of the participants, actually to be a facilitator of this discernment in common, we first need a disposition of ourselves. How do we prepare ourselves so that we can really see with the eyes of the Holy Trinity? And it's not so much about how to do, more it is about our inner disposition. So, and there are many experiences that we can foresee. There are many challenges along the way. It's a slow process. And these challenges very often will challenge my own interior, my own disposition, my own being. So, Ed, you want to share some more of your experience?
I chose this picture of the lifeguard. So as a teenager, I did the training as a lifeguard. It makes sense to me that you want everybody to be safe and enjoying themselves. And there are certain rules in pools with that idea of keeping things safe. So the rules make sense to me. But in spiritual direction, facilitation, the rules can sometimes get in the way. I was doing a process with a parish staff. So Catholic parish, was mostly a lay staff, and they wanted to be doing apostolic planning. So the first exercise I was leading them in was an examen of the ministry for the past year. So they had all gone off, had their prayer, they were coming back, and now we were doing the first round. And the first woman spoke, and she talked about this one event in the parish that she found so very painful, that she really thought of herself as having failed in this activity. And all I got was the desolation, this failure. Go around to the second person. Same event. He is also still stung by what happened in that event. And that's all he talks about, is this difficult time. We go around the circle, they're all talking about that one event and the painfulness of it. Now, in apostolic planning, I'm looking for the consolation so we have something to move forward on, but I'm not getting any consolation. Okay, time out, let's stop. Tell me why there were no consolations. Why are you focused on the desolation? And what came out was they had never talked about this. Each of them felt guilty about failing in this activity. Okay, so let's stick with that. What are you hearing? And so we went around it a second time, and then we did the equivalent of a third round. And what they were experiencing was there was a group in the parish that was opposed to their programming. And they had gone after each staff member, one by one, and each staff member felt wounded, but isolated. The conversation that came in the third round was a need for them to support one another, that they could not stick in the silence. They needed to be doing this spiritual conversation regularly. They needed a process of supervision. And to my surprise, we had one element of apostolic planning now put in place, their need for supervision. But it didn't come through the process I anticipated or I had set up. I had to do that time out. We're going in a different direction. You have to help me understand. And what came about in our conversation was very valuable. I had to put on hold some of the process that I had in place and had more modest goals after that. But they came out of the session feeling uplifted, that they were together, that they had a team experience. So my plan went out the window. Something else came in, which for them was graced.
Well, can I ask you a little bit more about your interior movement, as you look back, at the time when the first round didn't come out as you have expected? As you look back,
yes.
Did you notice what was happening?
It was this look, they're just sort of looking at me like, what? It's like, I'm not in sync with them. I could feel myself not connecting. And so, all right, I'm sort of lost here. They need to help me. I need to understand where they are. And so just calling a timeout, that was like the graced moment there. I need to surrender my agenda. I need them to tell me what it is you need from this. And then something new came out.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Well, when you share,
you can relate.
Yeah, I can relate to a personal experience. I was not the facilitator, I was a member. So when it comes to something about my team, I find it much more difficult to really have the spiritual freedom. So I remember an experience when we have in a couple of years ago. So we have faced some issue with we do not have enough spiritual directors to run the program of the retreat house. So we really need to discern whether we continue with the exact number of programs or we need to take away some programs. So obviously, I have a personal agenda. I hope my spiritual directors will be moved by the Spirit to contribute more. So, and I know that I'm not going to be indifferent, so I ask somebody else to facilitate. But it turned out that the consensus of a team is not what I really want. Not only they do not want to minimize any, take away any of the program, they want to maintain. I'm not sure whether they will be coming more. And yet they want more formation. And that was a consensus. I remember after that, I was very upset, depressed, and in my prayer, but something really strange happened in my prayer. In my prayer, I share with the Lord of my frustrations, and then I just hear this consolation voice saying, asking me, do you believe in discernment in common? And the voice say, if you believe, go ahead with the consensus. I will be with you. And then as I walk along, trying to offer information from the team, I see how the Lord was paving the way. And only about a year after, not only me, myself, but the whole team see the fruit. It was a difficult year for me. And to really experience how the Lord has also helped me to be more free so that I can really discern with the group. It's not me facilitating, but I can sense the effect of having a personal agenda.
It reminds me of that prayer on the first night of Teilhard de Chardin, this slow process of God.
Yeah.
If we're allowing it to unfold.
Yeah, and sometimes it's really fearful to step into the unknown. Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
This other picture, what happens when anger surfaces in the group, and how do you deal with it? I think more important is when anger surfaces in me and I'm supposed to be facilitating. So I had the occasion of bringing my Jesuit priests together with the diocesan priests with which we work. And we're doing an apostolic planning process. And one of my guys just can't stop talking. So we're in 3 small groups, and I can hear his voice. Nobody else is talking. He's the one who's just pontificating. And as I mentioned before, culturally, the elder, has priority. So he was the oldest member in our group. So I actually go over next to him and say, "Isn't it time for somebody else to share?" And his response, "I'm not done yet." I'm pissed. He's not doing the process. He's not listening. So I really am annoyed. Now, the time runs out, so we're done with our small groups, and one of the other Jesuits happens to be next to me, and I'm saying, "He's driving me nuts." That he cannot keep his mouth shut. It's this verbal diarrhea. And the other Jesuit's response was, "You have to understand how he has declined. He's not the man he was. He's living the past, and that's what's coming up." I had this immediate moment of, a call to compassion, not to slam him, to find a way of, sort of having the conversation with him. We're here so that we can form a community. Can you help? It's not the only time that I went back to anger with him, but that slow process I had to keep going back to. But that word of somebody who knew him over the years and could see his decline, and could I be as compassionate?
Well, you have anger, I have fear. And especially during the search, I remember a couple of years ago when they start to form people to do spiritual conversation. So I once have this group of respectable diocesan priests, vicar general, and of course the bishop brings his courier to come and learn spiritual conversation. So as a lay people, I have tension when the one who keeps doing talking are those respectable priests. So, and I try to invite, to warn him that time is up, but my voice is so small. And then the bishop has actually has come to me and say, "Can you speak up a little bit louder so that he can hear you?" So in the afternoon, the second time again, I tried to speak louder, but he continued to speak. He was in his own story. He keeps telling his story. And then, fortunately, the bishop told him the time's up. And he continues to speak. So it's not my business. But I realize how much tension I have inside myself. Yeah.
Well, and it's the care of the group that you really want to be focused on.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a reason we're feeling the tension or we're feeling the different movements.
Yeah.
Because our focus is on them.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So tensions are unavoidable. Yeah.
Yes. Should we have people have a little conversation?
Yeah. So do you have similar experiences? Recall some situation that when you face challenges or tensions that you find it is not easy to facilitate. To be able to see and to collaborate, we need this freedom of indifference. My experience is no matter how many times you have done the spiritual exercise, we still need this grace. So we all know that Ignatian indifference is the capacity to let go of what doesn't help me. So we have shared what doesn't help me, fear, anger, frustration, agenda, whatever, and stay engaged with what does. Actually, this is also what we have learned from Father James Hanvey in Salamanca about learning from the Trinity, learning from the Trinity about this freedom. It is a school of discernment for mission, because the Trinity's way, God's way, is the way of freedom. It is the cruciform wisdom and freedom of Christian life, and it is not easy. Discernment is not only about the end, but about the means But both must be consonant with the incarnational wisdom of the cross. So our way is to follow the cross. And what we have just mentioned, our lack of unfreedom, so very often is an obstacle for us to really follow. Yeah. God's power is often full of vulnerability. We mentioned those tension cases are all very vulnerable, makes us very vulnerable. And this countercultural action is arising out of a deeper truth, is a sapiential truth. So what is sapiential? In the plenary, we talk about we want to see with the eyes of the Trinity. We can call this a sapiential gaze. What is a sapiential gaze? It's in contrast to our naive gaze. Naive gaze is our gaze. We want to flee away from problems, difficulties, challenges, either being very angry or being very fearful. We want to run away. We want to fix it, right? We want to fix those desolation cases. But on the other hand, the sapiential gaze, and this is the gaze of the Holy Trinity, look within and see beyond. And we do need that in the freedom of indifference so that we can stay in this sapiential gaze. Or on the other hand, as Ian has mentioned, when there is consolation, the sapiential gaze allowed us to stay there rather than moving on too quickly. So the sapiential gaze does not stop at the appearance, but can enter into the cracks of our weaknesses, failures, in order to discern God's presence even there. And it calls us to go beyond what meets the eye. There is this famous word of wisdom. Unless you see a butterfly in a caterpillar, a flower in a bud, a saint in a sinner, you will never experience God. And this is grace. The freedom of indifference is not by ourselves. I remember Father John Dadas mentioning that by ourselves it is very difficult or even impossible. But with grace, it is only this grace. So what we do is we bring our lack of indifference to the Lord and ask for the grace. So in a moment, we would like to invite you to go into prayer again, prayer time, to recall in this ministry as a facilitator of discernment process. Either you can recall your past experience, or if you don't have past experience like this, imagine when you're in the role of a facilitator, where do I feel the call to become more indifferent? More indifferent is more spiritual freedom, letting go of attachments, like attached to my own personal agenda or whatever, surrendering to the will of God, holding the group. In contrast, unfreedom is we are driven by fear. We are attached to my own way, etc. If you like to do gospel contemplation, it's good to contemplate at the widow, at the widow's mite, the poor widow with only 2 coins. We are all like this poor widow. We only have 2 coins. Yeah.